To your scattered bodies go. That's the title of some science fiction book. My father's a big science fiction enthusiast. Good morning. To your scattered bodies go. It's probably our bodies that cause us to have that aspect of being fragmented. That I hate that word. Good morning. I hate that word, fragmented. It's a very descriptive word, and it's, why does it bother me so much? Good morning. I'll tell you why it bothers me. And I hope I don't get off track, because I do have things that I want to say. There are those check boxes in my head. I have like I don't have notes or anything, okay? I had to do carpool this morning. It was like a thing. You do carpool, that's your morning. So I'm running late and everything, and all that comes with. To your scattered bodies go. It might be our bodies that cause us to have this fragmentation, because our bodies have different desires. One, the right hand wants to go this way, your left hand, I guess your legs go ways. Unless you could walk on your hands like my brother used to do. Around the house, he'd walk on his hands. So, and we were speaking yesterday about periculum. Oh, last night actually, in that awesome fiasco. That was so much fun. I don't know what I was just saying. So, I want to tell you a story about when I went to like some form of therapist, let's call it. I'll tell you why I don't like the word fragmented. Whenever someone tries to sell me something, the thing gets tainted. Okay, now I'm going to tell you a story before the story. I have a problem with writing to the Igris. I do write to the Igris, and I do feel like the Rebbe guides me through it, but I have a problem with it. And the problem has nothing to do with the sanctity of such a... It is an unusual practice. Okay, you open it at random, the book, and you get a message. That's a bit unusual. It's a milim and a tamvadas. So when I was looking for the truth, I went in very unusual places. And one of the places I went to was this, it's embarrassing to even say, but I mean, it's more the ideas that interest me, not the weird avenues that the ideas come into the world. So this was purported to be wisdom that came from a channeled being. Okay, I'm sorry that that's an uncomfortable topic to the very from people amongst us. Good morning, my friend. That was so awesome last night. You really lit up my night and my whole life. That was amazing. It was really fun to laugh for a change. Yes. Now you're asking me to read the tiny letters and you're going to misconstrue everything on purpose. That was so funny. You're such a comic. You're so hilarious. So I'm telling a story before a story, and I hope I remember the point of them. So I was into this channeled being. I don't want to say the name because it's actually the name of Avodah Zarah, I realize after the fact. Or maybe during it, I was like lacking that real grounding at the time. And we were talking about before I became a Baal Tshuva. So I had these ideas, because the ideas were awesome. It's about thought manifestation. That you could, through your power of your thought, you can make reality come. That was the premise of it, or one of them. But through their various customs that surround this sort of, I don't know, esoteric culture, New Age, or whatever it was. They had their idea, or at least my liaison with this strange world, provided me with this opportunity to flip at random in a book, and you could get all the answers in the world. So that's how I went into Chabad afterwards. Havdil. Eventually I found the truth of the teaching. It might have been something, but it might have been very impure, but almost certainly was very, very impure, if it was any knowledge. I mean, they were very convincing. They had this panel of aliens being channeled in, and they would talk about scientific things that, unless they're really good science fiction actors, how do you pull that off? They're talking so fast, I couldn't believe it. So that was the crazy thing that I exposed myself to. But it led me directly into Chassidus, believe it or not. Because the next stage of my life just happened to segue right into that. I met another person who was the Rebbe's Shliach. Okay.
So now I want to tell you stories. I don't forget the link. Oh, that's horrible. Or that was supposed to be a premise to another story. Okay, what? I don't know. I'm missing getting. I was up all night partying with Menachem, so forgive me if I'm not as lucid today. So the Alter Rebbe. Oh, I remember the story. So I was in the office with a therapist who was trying to sell me. That's the connection. Because someone's trying to sell me. Okay, one time, it's not quite related, but I have to give another story. I went to the Kabbalah Center one time, way early. I was a teenager. My friend Dov Bencher, who came here the other day, made a comment. I was so happy to see him. Well, as much contact as I've had with him for decades. Really, really good friend of mine. Oh my goodness, I forgot where I was going with that too. This is what happens when you don't get enough sleep. That's what we should speak about. Why was I speaking about Dov Bencher? Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm going to go back to the main story. I'm going to skip around here today. It's going to be a mess. This is the train wreck video. Oh, I remember now. I don't remember the preceding story. It's the one. Anyways, I was in this shrinks thing. Oh, so selling. So I went to the Kabbalah Center, and they were trying to sell me books. It's my first day I ever saw. I saw the Kabbalah. They were like robots in there. They're like robots. Doesn't this mean that? And they would say, yes. And it was like making sheep. Encourage people to ask questions, not to say yes to everything you say. Goodness gracious. Focus, dude. Seize the force. Use the force. So I was in this Kabbalah Center. First time ever exposed to mystical Judaism. Well, no, I had some exposure. So yeah, that's maybe why it was so unsavory to me. The things that they were speaking were so basic, and it was done such ad nauseum, and they were trying to program the people. And then before I could leave, they had to try and sell me a whole bunch of stuff. Like, don't sell me stuff. I'm not interested. So it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. It's hard to really approach the thing as it is when you have this negative association. Anyways. So I went to the shrink's office, and he happened to have on his wall a picture of a poem I had just written. Like, it's the Group of Seven artwork, and it was about that painting. So I thought that was weird, divine providence. And the guy uses this to try and sell me later. He's trying to sell me his services that I didn't want. After he's trying to say, don't you think it's divine providence that you... He didn't use the word divine providence. He wasn't religious. But it was ridiculous. That means that I have to use you as my shrink. Or whatever. It wasn't for me, believe me. I don't need a shrink. This is years ago anyways. It's like, okay, I could have been a madman before, and now look how normal I am. This stigmas for such weird things. So, in the course of this conversation, he uses the word fragmented. He asked me to list the issues in my life, okay? So I tell you, issue number 1, da-da-da-da. There's a bullet for each thing. Like I was talking about the checkoff list. I had all the list of things. So he says, oh, I see you have all these multifaceted aspects of your life. That shows that you're fragmented in the core. You're going to ask me to list a bunch of bullets, and you won't expect that to look fragmented? I could have just said it's all the same thing. I take a blender to my soup, and it said about Rabbi Boruch that, I think it was in his name, that there's no problem having bread and butter, toast, and like an omelet and everything for breakfast. That's not an inappropriate desire to eat a nice breakfast. Just put it in a blender. Mix it all up, and then drink it like a milkshake. Okay, this is before the times of like meal replacement. This is not a meal replacement advertisement, folks. You gotta eat a meal. So if you're gonna have a life, you have to have a rich life. You have to have the meat, the potatoes, the vegetables, a nice soup, and a nice wine at the table. Everything's gonna be there in the Sudas, also in the Shara Bar, and the Yain and Meshumar when Mashiach comes. Everything's going to be there. The Rebbe always lists like all three of those. It's so important, every detail of what's going to be at this celebration. So you have to have a full integrated experience. And just because you have to list a bunch of things doesn't make you fragmented. So what does make you fragmented? I listened to an amazing share this morning by Y.Y. Jacobson. I didn't do any research this morning. I did it at carpool. Okay, so that's my research. I couldn't look up the psukim and all that. Just didn't have the time. And to me, I feel bad because you deserve all the information and deliver it in a geschmack way. We're not with the stuttering and da-da-da-da. If I was watching someone, I'd want him to be entertaining. You have to know the psukim. It's very important. That's what I should highlight, the only thing. Everything should be derived. If I see the drush, that should be in my heart. I should just see the pasuk, and I know it. Okay, I want to tell you a pasuk. And then I have to get to my line of thought that I was starting with. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. And Baruch Shem Malchus say, quite Malchus. It says that each word corresponds there, right? As Echad goes against Voed, Le'elam Voed, God's majesty should reign forever. Voed is Echad Bechalufe Asvan. It's just a thought I had, okay? With changing letters. So I figured there's a hint in the word changing letters. If you change the letters, each one corresponds to another. Gematria has all rules about how you interchange one letter from another. You could get Voed, forever, from Echad, from one. But they're different levels in unity. One is when you go beyond the world, and one is you say, I want that unity to be expressed within the world. So they each resonate each other. Bechalufe asfan. What does it mean with transferring letters? So I'm figuring it's hinting at what the Rebbe says in the other Sikha that I was talking about, being the partners in creation. Shutfus, the Maisa Bereshis, we have this partnership with God in creation. We become a creator in a sense. You can't say that, but in the sense that we're a partner in creation. That God consulted with us for creation. Good morning. Thank you very much. You too. So when we become a partner in creation, it takes it up, like, I mean, it's game changing. That's the controlling the matrix. And if someone tell me not to be a Hollywood rabbi, I'm not allowed to quote Hollywood stuff. So then don't watch it. I don't know. It's for people that know these things and therefore should get derived meaning from useless information in their head. Completely useless. It could be used for holy, just like you could use your chicken soup or your... So if you mix everything together, that's not a fullness. That's not... To have the opposite of a fragmented life, what would it look like? Why did that word bother me so much? It's really saying, so this idea comes out in this mimer that I heard from Y.Y. Jacobson. I didn't have time to look it up, the mimer, and find all the psukim. Oh, I was speaking about Shema, now it's Chalufa Asfan. So I figured, what do you mean change the letters? It means that you're at the level of, you're like a partner in creation, where you have the power. God cares enough that the Tzadikim Geizer Kadosh Baruch Hu Mekayim, that if you're a right worthy person, God will fulfill your requests. So you could exchange the letters of creation and make the world different to be manifest God's kingship in the world. That's the power of saying Hashem Echad, recognizing that everything is God. That's exactly the opening of the door to allow God to say, I want to reign as king through this person by letting this person represent me in this world. And he gives you a voice to express that godliness in a way that's meaningful to people. And I got to speak more about words and letters. It's so important to understand this. I just want to read A Partner in Creation. What a concept. Extrapolating from this, it would seem to me that any reaction to the recitation of the Shema, which does not include Klal Yisrael within the word Echad, is defective in some sense. For sure, and I have a source for that in Shir Shirim. I think it's a Daf Dalid Amid Beis in Likutei Torah. Okay, I've spoken about it before. We could look it up again. It's awesome. So I figure at that moment, if you just open yourself up to the Echad and you just give yourself away completely, that's the doorway. Say, Baruch Shem Kun Malchus. At that moment, they say, this is Hashem speaking. Look what you do. God's telling you, it's promising you, you're going to love Hashem. All of the power coming from Hashem. When you say those words now, with Baruch Hashem Kun Malchus Moed, you've introduced the idea that now God's speaking through you by reciting psukim from the Chumash. Psukim that are a promise that you will love Hashem. People like my friend that I went out with last night doubt their ability to have a sincere expression of love for God. But it's there at the core every time a person's slamming on the brakes in the middle of the highway, Lo Elena, that they should have to be in such a situation. They're turning to God. So just do that through your mind. You don't have to be in the car wreck, chas v'shalom, to realize that there's a God in the world. You could use your brain. Remember I talk about Fuzili brain? Come on, take that Fuzili and get the energy from it. The chalufe asma, this is not what I wanted to speak about. But it's related, I'm sure, somehow. I had a Fuzili strand running. I had a spaghetti strand. There was a spaghetti strand there, trust me. It may be curvy, okay? That's only because there's a lot of Fuzili going on. If I could be so arrogant. So don't sell me on things that makes it more difficult to relate to it in a genuine way. Don't sell me on things. And then I got to get. So this incredible shir spoke about the idea of fragmentation. And fragmentation is represented in the Torah. This is from Likutei Torah, okay? I couldn't find the mimer just now. But why would Jake's give you a beautiful shir? Maybe I'll remember to post it about this. He gave an incredible shir on this. So he's speaking about fragmentation being represented in Torah concepts. He quoted the Gemara, I think it was Gemara Shabbos. It said something about the kaf hakela, the hollow of a sling that were slung through the universe as a divine healing process. We're slung back and forth on a bungee cable. No joke. I would translate that on a bungee cable. God puts you on an everlasting, no, a bungee cable that eventually stops. There's an end to this suffering, right? It's one of the punishments. And he's asking people that are coming from a different Lamsha world, they're coming from a different world. He's talking to people of his class in Muncie. What they understand, the idea of kafel, they couldn't really put their finger on it. I don't know, people, I guess the Musar is not so clear and they're not able to articulate what they learn, maybe. I don't know. Because there's some smart people that are in that class. I know, I could hear from the questions. But they still weren't able to articulate the Musar idea of there's different punishments. How do you relate to these things? They seem so abstract and weird. So he's talking about the kafakala is the correction for being fragmented and scattered. Pizra mebeina umois, I think one of the verses that he quotes are, but also the idea of being kabetz nidche Yisrael, Amma Yisrael. Hashem is going to gathering those who are dispersed. So the idea of being scattered, fragmented, and dispersed, scattered, to your scattered bodies go. So the idea there with bodies, I liked it. The whole title makes sense because the bodies is what makes this fragmentation. What you were saying before about you have to, Yael Chaya Miriam Gray, that you were saying before about you have to have the unity with your brethren before you can enter the unity with God. 100% true. So when you have real unity amongst people, sometimes they get a little bit themselves, and they can express themselves freely, right? So when you're in the mikvah and there's a very important person there, but you don't know, because in the mikvah, people face the wall when they're changing. Even in the mikvah, people face the wall. They want a moment of privacy. It's not like it's different experience. You don't know what it's like. 50% of the people, at least, that watch this won't really understand that it's like a whole social scene in a very small mikvah. So you're like close spaced. I saw an art exhibit. They only let you gain access to the exhibit by passing between two, look it up, two people not dressed as even the king in the field would dress. That's the only way to get into this exhibit. So you're going to be very open-minded in this area to walk into this exhibit. I'm going to exclude everybody else. Remember, we talk about rejection here today. So what does it mean to be scattered? When you're in the mikvah with a very important person and you think it's your friend because they have their back facing you because they want privacy, and you slap them with a wet hand across the back, or I imagine the way I would tell the story, when I was repeating the story the way I heard it from Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson, I would say he took a wet towel and flicked it hard on his back, because that's at least the way kids would do it, I think. That's the way they did it to me. Or I did it. I don't know who the bad guy was. So they did this, not knowing that was the Alter Rebbe. Okay? You're supposed to leave the mikvah. I remind me to tell a story about that. Okay, but I want to finish this story. So the Alter Rebbe, he didn't turn to see who hit him. Why? Obviously, he didn't want to embarrass him. He's saying, look who you just thought was your friend, and slapped him on the back. How's it going, Charlie? Whack! To the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe didn't turn. Maybe he saluted. To not ignore it entirely. I don't know. I'm that friend, but I'm thinking about my video sharing the gift. So the Alter Rebbe didn't move. He didn't want to embarrass this person who thought it was his friend, so he didn't turn. Okay, what's the big deal? He didn't want to embarrass him. That's obviously, Tamar was willing to be burnt at the stake so as not to embarrass someone. Yehuda, a very important person. Not to embarrass him. Everyone's an important person, but we learned that from an important person, and that's what made him important. That's what became Yehuda about him. The fact that he was humbled to admit that it was him. Tzid called me many. It was from me. I think I said that right. So he admitted that was his greatness. That's why Mashiach is destined to come from him, because of that humility associating with the ability of accepting to be embarrassed to do what's right. If it's embarrassing to do what's right, I'm willing to do that too. So here the Alter Rebbe did not turn to not embarrass somebody. So what's the big deal? Because if someone takes a mallet to your knee and hits it in the right place, right? Your knee's gonna flick out. It will be a reflex. It's involuntary. We're just wired a certain way that we're reactive. That's a scattered person. But the Alter Rebbe was the opposite of that. The opposite of being fragmented. And why did that bother me so much? Because it basically means that all the effort you've done to devote all of your powers and all your aspects and all the things that you list on who you are, that you're supposed to somehow list in a way that doesn't make you look fragmented. Yeah, I like red, I like rouge, I like crimson, I like scarlet. Okay, I'm totally singly focused. If I said three things like red and blue, then you're going to tell me there are two colors in my head. That's bad. I woke up sucking on a melon. I'm going to quote us the song lyrics. There are two colors in my head. That's so fragmented. No, it's not what it means. It means that you've worked on yourself for years. Or you're just born with it, like Moshe Rabbeinu was born, the whole light. The whole room lit up. You're just a natural. But that's very rare, if it exists at all. It's very rare. People work on themselves for years. And that means that you've integrated the conflicting forces. If you don't have conflicting forces in you, you're like a paper mache, all one color, the whole newspaper. I don't care if it was multicolor, like full color, technicolor newspaper. Make paper mache out of it and see what color it is. That's the mush that the Mendel Futterfast wants you to eat of your brunch. Make it into a meal replacement. Just chug it down. Take it in a protein pill. That's how you should eat. You shouldn't have any pleasure in the world. Okay. That's not, I love Mendel Futterfast. I don't know for sure if he said this story. There's definitely a point to the story that I could integrate into the way, what my things that I emphasize in my perspective. You always have to know each side of the spectrum. You have to have this idea. I'm not into the food, It's not about that. It's about, this is godly sustenance that he gave me. And therefore, I'm eating it. The pleasure is primarily that the bed of stones, even if it was a stones, you're eating the pits of the cherries. It's from Hashem. Some people probably could survive off like, I'll get on a different tangent if I go there. You have to work for decades to find yourself. It doesn't have to be like that anymore. I gave sources. The Shifcha Harufo that comes out with the brilliant ideas. If you really care about something, you could transcend all the rational process. You could become the Basula and just dance through life. See all my other previous sharing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you think I'm just talking goo shit. That's all I say. I had a friend who sits at my Shabbos table and says things like that. He'll say things like that. So I picked it up. And I hope it, to me, and to him also. But people think he's eccentric. Because he doesn't wear a tie, let's just say. Wears a different make of sunglasses. Whatever. He would say things like, but he would mean something by it. So they become like signposts for ideas that you don't have to bother giving an hour share. Just say the idea, look up the share. To your scattered bodies go. I have to tell you another story, another mikveh story. I wrote about it when I looked for my original. I can't find it right now, so forgive me. I'll just tell you, I'm running out of time anyway, so I'll tell it to you a bit quickly, but it's a geschmacka story. It's a story about the Anav of Minsk, I think he was known as. The Anav of Minsk. The humble person of Minsk. He was so humble. You're supposed to, out of respect, if you knew the Alter Rebbe was in the mikvah, you're not really supposed to go in there. I once saw Rabbi Marlow in the mikvah and I didn't go in there. Because the one time I did that Bolshua thing, I didn't. I waited for it to come. He was the Morad Asra. He was the Morad Asra. He was the head rabbi of the city, and he was in the mikvah. Respectfully. So people would leave the mikvah when the Anav of Minsk came in. He was so renowned for his humility. People. But there was an out-of-towner or a hot shot that didn't know who this guy was. Maybe he had his back to him, right? Like the Alter Rebbe. He wanted to test the waters of how just how humble is this person that likes this title or accepts this title of the Anav of Minsk. Let's test it out a bit. Let's test out these window openers. Let's test it out a bit. It was said of the Anav of Minsk that he was so humble that if you asked him to scratch your back in the mikvah when you're taking a shower beforehand, he would scratch your back. I don't know if they had showers in those days, but whatever the equivalent is. They whipped the time. Like, you embellish stories for your audience, for who you are. That's the interpretation that you're automatically doing. So it was said of him, he was so humble. So he said, "Oh, I heard that's like that much. I heard. I'm out of town, maybe, or maybe it's just a chutz ben yak. He's testing the waters. Maybe he knew him. I don't remember exactly. So he says, I feel really itchy on my left shoulder blade." Says it loud enough that the Anav Minsk gets his attention. He's in the shower next stall. So he takes a step back, this bacher, this young whippersnapper, and says, "Oh, look who's here! It's the Anav of Minsk. I heard that you were so humble that you know what? That's great because I got this itch. It's actually moved to the right side. If you could just move a little harder, yeah, right there. That's it." The Anav of Minsk felt like he had to live up to. He had to like give in. Oh no, that's not how it goes exactly. Sorry, I told the story wrong. He didn't give in. When he was, and I don't know for sure if that's what he told him. No, that is. He said he wanted this. So he tells him, because I remember the story. He keeps on going. Yeah, a little bit harder, a little bit to the left. He's driving crazy. Then he spins him around like a dreidel. He spins him around to look at him. He says, "Do you know who I am?" He says, "No, who are you?" This whippersnapper tells me, "Who are you?" You really don't know who I am? Don't you know people run out of the mikveh when they see me, when they give me so much respect? And what do? You're using me like this, like you think I'm a shmata? He says, don't you know who I am? He says, no, who are you? He says, I'm the Anav of Minsk. You don't know who I am? Okay, I totally inverted and ruined that story and chopped it to smithereens. Doesn't matter. You get the idea. Someone could splice all those segments together and make sense of that. That was a real spaghetti mess. But it was fun. So there's two things that in this mimer it speaks about that identify fragmentation. One is being on the bungee jump of H-E-L-L. That should be what the title. The bungee jump from H-E-L-L. It makes you acknowledge the extent to which you didn't find integration between the various forces that operate in your being. If you are a rich person, you have different aspects. You might be a little bit moody, but it might not express itself in moodiness, because that's really an inability to control it. It might express itself more in the way of fragmentation. That's the unsavory word that this guy was speaking about. This idea, this therapist, whatever. The word that's became contaminated to me. So to not be fragmented does not mean that you don't have different things in your life. It means that you've learned to go through the dance of life with recognizing that there's two colors in my head, and that's okay. I have two legs. I'm gonna walk really best if they're both functioning in sync. So, the Ratzah shaven life doesn't have to be anxiety. It could be a dance through life. It doesn't have to be this jittery agitation through life that people by default sort of just gel into. You can take command of your life and not be fragmented. You can become the Alter Rebbe. So the example there is the Kafakela. So it's not like a torture because you're bad. So therefore, it's rather an extension of the state, but in a way that will heal you. God's going to take you through it. It's not a matter to make. It happens in the world, and that's the main place we're supposed to get that correction. The world is made up of all the vicissitudes of life. Will send you hurtling back up and down like in Kriyas Yamsuf, the Mitzrayim, the Egyptians were cast up and down on this bungee jump. The Kafakela is saying, look, I'm intellectual. Look, I'm a lowlife. Look, I'm holy. Look, I'm horrible. It's all that vacillation, the inability to identify a core personality underneath it. And once you do, then you can focus. That's when you become the balabas of your home. You finally become, when you know yourself, then you have the opportunity to pursue some kind of transformation. Because he was speaking a lot about focusing. He was talking about at great length about an analogy of a laser beam and the technology of a laser beam, how the difference of it is because one's scattered light, but useful light. The light is much more useful when it's focused. You can do so many incredible, miraculous things with lasers. And that's because you integrate and focus. Right? Like that scattered talk that I had before is a nice example of what being scattered looks like. But if you can manage to be blessed with getting focus, then you can accomplish so much more and have miraculous impact on your engagement with the world. When you engage with the world, if you're there, if you're alive, you will have an impact on the world. So you don't walk into a room, for bringing in particular, just as a sheep. And if you don't like the message, you talk about it, get thrown out, live life a little bit. Life is a bit of a cuckoo's nest, okay? So you can get yourself thrown out of the cuckoo's nest to a better life. Break out, break free. What does he eventually do? He shows his inner strength in the end. He takes the big thing in the middle of the room, throws it through the wall, through the window or whatever, and it was so heavy, but he summoned the strength to do what he was given, God-given powers to be able to do. If he's in a torture zone, yes, he should try and break free. It's not for his own good to be in a place where they give you a lobotomy. When the Clockwork Orange is the same thing, but it's a vasectomy, basically. You don't just cut off the person. If he's not able to integrate within society, okay, you got to do your best, but don't let the jails be more victimizing than the world that they came from. It should be a healing center. So when you're going through the kafakela of life, that's God trying to heal you by drawing your attention to the very things that led to fragmentation in your life. So that's one example it gives. The other one is dreams. Dreams represent, in other places I learned in Chassidus, that a dream is basically the excrement of the mind. Every system has some ejection, the rejection of what should be chutz, the acher that should be chutz, that aspect of life that you're meant to push away. The gimel klippus atmeis within us. The three completely evil has to be pushed away. Shirasu hu taknase. To destroy it is, to eviscerate it is, to correct it. So there is that type of correction in our worlds too. But yeah, it should be a healing process whereby you don't eviscerate the person. The person doesn't have to go through olam atchiyah. He's going to be resurrected anyways with his limitations and his illnesses to work through. Presumably this also, and that's manifest in the kafakela. So how is that like a dream? A dream is the excrement of your thinking. All the waste. Let's get rid of it. That's if you're not a holy person. If you're a holy person, there's stories of, the shirayim of a Rebbe is taken, typically in most environments, is taken as something holy. This is something that touched the lips of my master, my king. I want to have some connection, even with that. So shirayim is not emphasized so much in Chabad, because we sort of diminish the importance of the more superficial aspects. We don't decorate our sukkah. We want to make the sukkah itself what we're connecting to. The mitzvah of the schar mitzvah. The reward for mitzvah itself is the mitzvah, because the mitzvah contains the reward. It is the reward. When you're in a sukkah, that is the reward. You just don't see it because it's munach. What did we say? It's placed in a hidden treasure, a treasure chest. It's not hidden. We know where it is. The Torah directs you exactly where it is. And not only that, the Torah gives you the key to open it, and that's called Mashiach. That's what the Rebbe says in that Sicha. All you got to do is bring Mashiach, at least within your world, and you will be able to open that treasure chest in your life. So a dream doesn't have to be this wasteful experience. And Tanya speaks about it. You could use this to crush yourself thinking that your dreams are foolish. In other words, you're not purified in the most further extreme. You haven't integrated all aspects of yourself perfectly. And if you did, your dreams would be that they would be about Torah, actually. You'd get secrets of the Torah revealed to you in your dreams. That's what it says there. So to your scattered bodies go. Of course, the emphasis has to be our spirit. That will guide our bodies. Ultimately, our bodies are going to give sustenance to our souls. So there's a wisdom that's going to come out of the physical. The dirbach tachtainim. Okay, I want to speak a little bit more about dirbach. Sorry that got interrupted. Some weird number. It said ladies, lumi. I don't know. Like a store wanted to sell me like chocolates or something. I don't know why they got the wrong number for sure. They're not selling any chocolates to me. And if you try and sell me it when I don't want it, I'll never come back to your center. Okay, that distracted me from what I wanted to close with. But that's a very scattered idea. The paper mache dream. All right, we should end with dreams. It says when Mashiach comes, we will have been as dreamers. Hayinu kechelnim. We're going to be like dreamers. It speaks a lot about dreams. It's just a huge topic. I don't know if I could do it in one sitting. Has to do with, it says that in the Chachamim teach that in a dream, the elephant can pass through the eye of the needle, the loop, the hole in the needle. Can pass through that. Two opposites can coexist, which is a shtus. But it's also ultimately how you want to integrate yourself. So that's like the warped way of doing it. In a dream, where you don't recognize Okay, you're going to have to look in the Mamarim that speak about this. What is it? Purim time, is it? I can't remember right now. The dream Mamarim. Yosef time. Yosef's dreams speaks. Yaakov Avinu also lies down. Okay, sleeping when you lie down, the head is at the and tail are on the even keel. Okay, I'm just should probably get going. 10:30 minion awaits, right? So the bungee jump of life and the dream world. I didn't say really enough about dreams to even say that I dealt with that topic here. Let me just remember what it said there, or what Jacobson emphasized about a dream. I can't remember right now. Okay, so we're gonna leave it at that. So a little bit of a not fireworks at the end. Okay, it doesn't always have to be. We got the beautiful kikida that's singing, giving an otherworldly sound to this drush. There's an instrument that he has that sound. What's that called? I think George Harrison was into playing it. A variation of a guitar with a long sitar. Play the sitar. It sounds a bit like a kikida. It's an otherworldly sound. So again, do we know what the key then to not be fragmented? Because that's really, you want to be a person that's like jumping, is like completely jumbled like a dream. I think that's where he took it. Or do you want to be like the Alter Rebbe, who's someone who's taking the time to work on integrating? The person has a rich character, will have different aspects to him that are often in conflict, and through identifying what the Torah demands of him and how he's going to relate to that and interpret it and apply that in his life. So that has to be the focus of his davening, when he's focusing on connecting with his true self. He's getting that balabatishkeit over his life by knowing at least who he is, and therefore devoting that knowledge of who he really is towards God. That's the time where we could manifest or sort of draw on, we could tap into that inner integrity that makes you not a reactionary person, but a person that when he gets whipped in the mikvah, or when he gets punched in the shoulder by his older brother, can smile and just roll with the punches of life and be happy that you got to bring some integrity and light into the world and not embarrassing someone in this case, which is like the darkness, the flip side of it, of bringing light here, of like, yeah, I care about another person. The Alter Rebbe immediately knew, his body knew. Reminds me of the story of the Rebbe Rashab when he washed his hands. Why 3 times? He forget right now where the source is, but the very fact that he did it proves that somewhere it's written in Shulchan Aruch. It's an Ashri, I don't know. You're supposed to wash 3 times. It says in Hayom the source for it. So he didn't know at the time. What does that mean? I forgot. But he knew, because at the time he was 13, his father, the Rebbe Marash, had told him that he had to integrate the entire Shulchan Aruch. He had to learn it, rather. And the Rebbe Rashab knew when he's learning it, it becomes part of him. So his body only worked according to the Shulchan Aruch. And from that point on, his ear once got deafened. We were speaking about deafness, I think yesterday. Deafened, because someone's speaking Lashon Hara, his ear turns off. He can't hear it. His ear will turn off, and he was deafened in one ear. Somehow he got it back later. I forget the story. But that's an inner integrity that affects our reactions. The reactions themselves are going to be in line with our higher ideals. Okay, I speak about this ideal a lot, but now we're going to end with that, and maybe we'll come back to it another time. So, I bless everyone that they should tap into this idea that exists in you. It's not coming from me. It's not like I'm blessing you because you say good things to each other. I want to speak about the bed of stones, that stones are words that you articulate, the chalufa asfan that I spoke about in the beginning, about your partner in creation. Therefore, the building blocks of the world, you could change through this nullifying yourself to God, bringing that godliness into the world. You could change the very world itself. So I say that that's what it means. Why
wife make a bed of stones. But why would you leave if you had a palace boudoir, how do you say it, made out of gold and silk covers, why would you leave it to go to, just invite her into yours? You're supposed to leave your bedroom. Why wouldn't she therefore have the resources to make a golden one? So I say it means this. There's a fence of roses separating them. Maybe a red rose, maybe distance, maybe being on a business trip. They're away. All she has is her fingertips, is her words, which are letters, which are building bricks. It says in Sefer Yetzirah. They're building bricks. They're stones maybe. I don't know if it says stones there or bricks. I can't remember. But it says they're building blocks. Avanim, I think it says they're stones, which was perfect here because it's a bed of stones. And to get the integration is recognizing that it's 12. When you speak, there's ups and downs in your cadence of your voice. There's different letters. They make up different words. The word geula has geila within it. If you hear half a word, like there's funny stories about the word putz. Yeah, there's word. It happens in half a word. Rabbi Wagner told me an interesting story. I'm gonna get lost in it. I can't remember it anyways. Good. So why would your wife, who's the queen, and she doesn't deny nothing, obviously, make a bed made out of stones? Maybe all she has is stones or letters of articulation. Do you say, I love you? Do you speak softly to someone? Is your bed of stones so attractive to someone that I'm going to get in that bed, so I'm going to respect the fence of roses? And our distance, the distance that even greater, why are you not in the king's gold? It says this in Isaiah. But he would leave that to go to the bed of stones because he respects the distance and he has an intimacy even when there's a fence of roses. There's still the ability to communicate. Halacha allows you to communicate, so there always should be an intimacy. That's permitted al pi halacha, whatever you define that as. But sometimes it's just your words, your letters, and that could become a bed, a comfortable bed that not only is, like if you have rocks, separate rocks under your body, that would be very difficult to lie on, like when you're on a canoe trip or a camping trip or something, and there's like a rock right under your spine. Move it over a little bit, or you know what? If you had a sheet of rock, a bedrock, right? A bedrock. That's a good subtitle here for this segment. A bedrock. You know, I wrote a haiku about that to get this idea across. That when you only have your words and letters, and it might appear very sharp and like fragmented pieces, but they could unite if it's given with love. It's all you have. I'm at a distance. I give you what I can. I'll give you the stones, which are my bed of stones, which is kind words, words of affection, and that precipitate or engender intimacy. That's possible, bi halacha, even when you're out of the bedroom, or in some sense. When you're in our culture, you sleep on separate beds, typically, at least in certain sections of the culture. Everyone has their own minhagim, right? I don't know. I just know what I know. So, I think that there's a secret there that tells you, how do you integrate that? So where do I get the 12 stones from? That's Yaakov Avinu lying down. First time in 14 years, he lies down on a bed of stones. That's how we learn this from the Zohar. Learns it from these verses. But this idea and the unity, which would be much more comfortable to sleep on a bedrock, right? That's a bedrock. Your wife made you that bedrock. Yes, that's precious, and I respect it, and I see it came from love, and that's what the love there brings about the integration. So it becomes one, it's like a comfortable, that becomes something that's worthy of a king. And because you see the dignity in expressing it verbally through stones, which are letters, which are circles and circles, right? So I'm just trying to just end off with one sentence about how that gives us how is this an allusion to the power of doing things with love to integrate your own self. So there are parts of you that you're going to see that are fragmented. You're going to have the bullet list, and you have to weigh how is this consistent with my value system. You have to make that accounting. That's what we do in Elul. That's what you do inside yourself all the time. Make an accounting that recognize that you have different things. Are they all expressive of the same cohesive integrity that I express in every facet of my life? Then the facets draw back to the source. They draw your eye to the source. That they're all one gem. It's the sapphire. That you gaze into the eyes, the dove eyes, that totally are integrated, and therefore there's never another mate for the dove. Okay, and now I'm circling like crazy. You have to love yourself before you can truly love another. The insignificance of stones, the insignificance of the separation of stones, but the integration that's possible through the miraculous, Yaakov Avinu did it because he brought miracles into the world. So even the physical stones were integrated and it became a bedrock. That's something that you'd leave a golden, he had to leave, you know what he left? He left the golden king's boudoir of, the secrets of the Torah. He was 14 years learning the Torah, okay? And he left that and he lay on a bed of stones. And that was worth leaving it for. Maybe that's related here. The Zohar is hinting about that. Because what he left was the palace's chain, the royal bedroom, the golden, the silk sheets and everything. He left that to go to love on Techara, and he went to pursue a family, to be the progenitor of a family. And he recognized that that's the bed of stones that's awaiting him, that's more worthy even at a certain point. I mean, it's always a right time and place for everything. You have to know in your life when it's your 14 years in yeshiva, and now it's time to pursue someone's, even if it's a bed of stones. And you know what? You're going to probably upgrade if you're the king. Probably that's in the cards. Okay. Thank you for this extended moment of integration. Okay. Have a great day, everyone.